When Lena Brooks first stepped off the rusted military bus onto Fort Meade's concrete, she didn't look like much. She wore standard fatigues, carried a scuffed duffel bag, and kept her head down, her expression unreadable. She was 32, nearly a decade older than most of the fresh-faced recruits around her. No one knew where she came from. No one cared to ask Dot within 2 days. The others had already nicknamed her Deadweight. She couldn't do more than 5 pull-ups. Her run times were barely acceptable. In formation, she moved like a ghost, not out of laziness, but with a peculiar detachment. While others cracked jokes or showed off their marksman scores, Lena drifted silently through the base, like someone who wasn't really there. Her roommates talked about her when they thought she couldn't hear. She's weird. Probably. Bribed her way in. Bet she's someone's niece. But Lena said nothing. She rarely spoke unless addressed. She kept her uniform crisp, her boots polished, and her long sleeves rolled down, even in the sweltering Maryland summer. There was something else too, something that made even the drill sergeants uneasy. She never flinched. Not during yelling, not during failure, not even during punishments. When others collapsed from exhaustion, Lena stood still, as if she were waiting for something. Or someone got the only unusual thing about her was the way she handled computers. During a required systems navigation class, Lena was assigned to a terminal most recruits had trouble booting up. Within minutes, her screen flickered to life with command lines no one else had ever seen. When the instructor asked what she'd done, she only said, "Basic bypass." The instructor stared, confused. That wasn't basic. It wasn't even. In the training manual, it might have been dismissed. Until the incident during week 3. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon, and the recruits were undergoing a cyber simulation drill, a scenario in which enemy forces digitally attacked American satellite systems. Lena's squad was tasked with defense coordination, but midway through the operation, the entire training system crashed. Screens went black. Alarms flickered. Keyboards stopped responding. Confused chatter filled the room as the drill halted. Instructors scrambled, barking into radios. The simulation center hadn't crashed in over 6 years. But one person wasn't panicking. Lena calmly walked to the back of the room where an old, mostly unused terminal sat near the wall. She typed 3 commands, then 2 more. The system blinked. The network lights came back on. Screens returned. The entire infrastructure rebooted, faster than IT could have hoped. Within 90 seconds, the simulation resumed as if nothing had happened. No one even saw what she typed, not except one person. Far above Fort Meade, deep inside a surveillance monitoring unit linked to a black-level Pentagon network. General Marcus Ellison leaned forward in his chair. He wasn't supposed to be watching the simulation feed, not directly. He had only glanced at the screen out of boredom while reviewing. A flagged anomaly. But something about the moment Lena moved toward that terminal made him stop. The speed, the familiarity, the quiet command. He zoomed in, reversed the footage, froze the frame when Lena's sleeve rolled back for half a second. What he saw made his blood run cold. It was a tattoo, partially hidden, a curved string of binary numbers with symbols embedded in the curve. And beneath it, a code phrase he hadn't seen in over a decade. Kill code -7. He stood slowly. His aides looked at him. "Sir?" one asked. General Ellison said nothing. He simply walked to the sim wall, picked up a secure red-line phone, and dialed an internal clearance-only extension. His voice was sharp and steady. "Put a hold on all discharge recommendations from Fort Meade," he said, "and reassign one recruit, Lena Brooks. Send her to Vault C." He paused. "Tell no one why." The next morning, Lena's orders changed. Without explanation. She was pulled from group drills, yanked from physical training, and instructed to report to an off-limits area of the base that most recruits didn't even know existed. Vault C. No one spoke to her as she packed her gear. Her squad mates stared, whispering. She finally got kicked out, one muttered. She probably failed clearance. But Lena said nothing. She slung her duffel over one shoulder, walked past the line of blinking eyes, and disappeared into the belly of Fort Meade. Vault C wasn't a vault in the traditional sense. It was a concrete labyrinth buried 3 stories beneath ground level, a forgotten shell from the Cold War era. It once housed one of the government's earliest data farms, now obsolete by today's standards. The corridor echoed with silence. Dust coated every inch. Old biometric locks lined the walls like fossils. A single guard stood outside a blast door. He didn't ask her name. He simply scanned her ID badge, checked a printed order with blacked-out sections, then stepped aside. Heavy door creaked open. Fluorescent lights buzzed to life, revealing rows of covered servers, ancient command panels, and steel cabinets labeled with dates that hadn't been updated in a decade. She stepped inside. The door sealed shut behind her. At the far end of the room, a terminal glowed softly, the only one powered. The screen showed a blinking green cursor, patiently waiting. Like it had been expecting her, Lena didn't hesitate. She dropped her bag, sat in the worn chair, and rolled up her right sleeve. The full tattoo came into view, a sweeping, intricate series of numbers and lines, shaped like a falcon's wing across her forearm. Beneath the pattern, 3 words written in precise code font. Kill Code 7. She placed her fingers on the keyboard. The commands she typed weren't standard. They were from a system no longer taught. A system buried after it was deemed, too dangerous for centralized deployment. Black Sand Protocol. Within seconds, the terminal shifted to a deep gray interface. A series of encrypted files surfaced. Lena's eyes scanned them rapidly. Mission logs, classified kill switches, old asset tracking reports. And then she saw it. The worm. Still active. Still replicating. Still deep inside the Department of Defense infrastructure. But this wasn't the original worm she'd seen during training. This one was more evolved, smarter. It didn't just corrupt files. It mimicked chain-of-command protocols, masking itself as routine operations. Whoever built it knew how the U.S. digital skeleton worked. They weren't just attacking blindly. They were already inside. Lena leaned back in the chair. The implications were chilling. Someone had rewritten parts of the Black Sand framework, her own system, to access top-tier nuclear launch architecture. This wasn't just espionage. It was an internal coup waiting to happen, disguised as a glitch in simulations. Her fingers moved again, summoning a real-time trace of the worm's signature. It was bouncing through multiple encrypted tunnels, rerouting through international proxies, and folding into governmental comms. She needed higher access. Military-level clearance would only reveal fragments. She needed something else. She needed the general. As if summoned by thought. The blast door behind her opened. Lena turned. General Ellison entered alone, the metal door sealing behind him. His expression wasn't one of anger. It was something more complicated. Recognition, caution, regret. He looked at her tattoo for the first time in full view. "I thought you were dead," he said, voice low. Lena didn't look up from the screen. Everyone did. A pause. "Why are you here?" he asked. Lena's reply was almost a whisper. "To finish what we started." She stood slowly, turning the screen toward him. The worm's live trace blinked in red. "Black Sand has been hijacked," she said. "And I'm the only one left. Who can stop it?" Ellison stared at the screen. His jaw clenched. He knew then. Fort Meade wasn't just training recruits anymore. They were already at war. General Ellison stood frozen, eyes locked on the pulsing screen. What Lena showed him wasn't theoretical. It was live, intelligent, and far-reaching. The worm wasn't just infiltrating military infrastructure. It had begun testing nuclear, signaling sequences, subtle probes across dormant launch paths, silent, invisible to standard protocols. "This isn't just code," Ellison muttered. "This is war." Lena's fingers moved again, bypassing more barriers than most would dare. "I traced the origin patterns," she said, her voice steady. "Whoever built this started with black sand architecture. Our framework, our tactics. But they've rewritten the core modules. It's evolved." Ellison watched her, unsure what unsettled him more, the worm itself or the terrifying calm in her voice. She wasn't guessing. She wasn't wondering. She knew exactly what she was dealing with. He circled. Behind her, inspecting the monitor, strings of code danced like falling rain. Beneath the mess, he noticed an embedded signature, a hidden imprint left by whoever had spawned the worm, and his blood ran cold. It was a signature he recognized. A call sign :01. Blacks and -01. He looked at Lena. "You know who this is?" She nodded once. "He taught me everything." The man known as 01 wasn't just a former Black Sand operative. He was its architect, the one who handpicked each recruit, the one who trained Lena in untraceable cyber intrusion, silent data assassinations, and digital kill switches. He was also the one who led the final mission in Kabul, the one where every member of their 7-person team was marked Kia, except Lena. Ellison stepped back, trying to possess. He was presumed dead. He went dark after Kabul. Lena's tone was colder now. Because he wanted to. He burned the mission. He made sure we were listed as losses. But he kept something, the Black Sand kill core. Why? She turned toward him, locking eyes for the first time. To finish what he started. Not for country, for control. The general exhaled slowly, then tapped a secure cum patch on his wrist. "I need full blackout protocols engaged on Vault C, no inbound or outbound signals. Scramble local surveillance feeds." His tone hardened. "And prep access for level 0 clearance." She's not a trainee anymore. Within minutes, 2 agents arrived, dressed in unmarked black and armed with retinal scanners. They didn't question Lena's presence, only confirmed her identity using a code phrase known only to Black Sand operatives. "Execute failsafe." "Override complete," Lena replied. The older agent blinked. She's real. She was given access to an offline server node, a dark terminal with no internet contact, powered by its own oxygen-fed system. Here, Lena began reconstructing her original kill code, the only one capable of disabling the worm without triggering national panic. But using it came at a cost. "Deploying this code will light up every known digital trace I've buried," Lena explained. "It'll confirm I'm alive, and it'll confirm I'm fighting him." Ellison nodded. "If we don't act now, there won't be a network left to hide in." Lena turned back to her screen. Her fingers moved with precision, pulling old fragments of herself from digital memory. Each command wasn't just technical, it was personal. Like reviving ghosts. Like opening sealed wounds. At last, the kill code script was ready. But as she hovered over the execute key, a chill crept over her. For the first time in years, she felt seen, exposed. Like a target being painted from somewhere far away. Because she knew him, and she knew he was watching. When she pressed that key, the war would truly begin. Lena exhaled and typed the final command. "Initiate. Kill code 7. The screen blinked white. Across global networks, the worm began to stall, its replication interrupted. Core pathways collapsed. Internal alarms fired across defense departments. But the breach, the real breach, had just been silently diffused. Ellison looked at her with renewed awe. You just stopped a war. Lena shook her head. No, she said quietly. I just told him I'm alive. 3 hours after Lena activated Kill Code 7, the Pentagon's internal systems lit up with alarms. Not because of a breach, but because something had stopped. A breach no one had detected in the first place. Emergency analysts pored over logs and found nothing that made sense. A digital worm with no origin, no signature, no activation trail disabled by a command line that didn't exist in any U.S. database. General Ellison sat in a secure debrief room, flanked by 2 defense intelligence officers. Lena sat across from them, silent, her face unreadable. She'd been through debriefs before, but nothing like this. The lead officer leaned forward. Ms. Brooks, we understand you neutralized a hostile entity in our systems. Can you tell us exactly what it was? Lena answered calmly. An evolved derivative of black sand infrastructure, modified, more autonomous. It was executing silent command replication through military satellites. The officer blinked. You're saying someone was already inside our nuclear command chain? She nodded. Yes, and they were testing permissions, simulating silent escalations. Ellison cut in, voice like steel. She stopped it, but that was a message. Probe. The real attack hasn't happened yet. The room fell into silence. Lena placed a small encrypted drive on the table. I extracted part of its evolving signature. I need access to every communication line this worm touched. Civilian, military, foreign, local, it doesn't matter. We need to find where it's anchored. They hesitated. That kind of access was above top clearance. She's not asking for permission, Ellison said. She's preventing a war. The files were approved by midnight. What Lena found chilled her. Buried inside one of the logs was a familiar pattern, an exact replica of a dormant black sand failsafe, last seen years ago in Kabul. Back then, it had been used to sever field communications when their team was ambushed. They thought it was sabotage. Now, Lena knew it had been practice. He hadn't just erased them. He had used them to test his kill code. Why test it again? Ellison asked. Lena stared at the screen. Because he's upgrading. And he wants me to see it? Her prediction proved right within 24 hours. A secure U.S. Navy satellite blinked offline. Then came a ghost signal bouncing between international servers in real time. It mimicked U.S. launch prep orders, just slow enough to be suspicious, just fast enough to send global defense agencies into high alert. But it wasn't the signal itself that disturbed Lena. It was what came attached. A single image. Embedded in the code string dot, it was a photo of Black Sand Teen 7, taken months before Kabul. There were 7 of them young, brilliant, lethal dot, and in the corner, almost faded, was the handwritten signature of their commander? 01. Ellison stared. At it. He's confirming it's him. No, Lena said. He's confirming he knows I'm alive. And he's not hiding anymore. The photo was sent only to her, embedded in a part of the code only she would detect. The rest of the world never saw it. That night, Lena didn't sleep. She stayed in the vault, eyes fixed on cascading code streams. Her breath calm. Her hands still, but inside she was burning. She remembered their mission in Kabul, how they'd been fed false coordinates, how the team had split, how their radios failed, and how she had barely escaped alive, crawling through a half-collapsed sewer tunnel while enemy drones circled overhead. She remembered watching the sky that night, realizing her team was gone, the comms were silent, and she had been left. Purpose dot. And now the man who orchestrated it all was back stronger, smarter, and in complete digital shadow. Ellison checked in once at 3 a.m. You okay? No, Lena said honestly. But I'm ready. He nodded and left her alone. By sunrise, Lena had compiled a new trace. The next origin point wasn't virtual. It was real. Coordinates, latitude and longitude. A signal tower in Argentina. A relay hub buried in the mountains. And based on the code used, it was Command Central. She stood, grabbed her encrypted drive, and looked at Ellison. Get me a plane, she said. A blacked-out military transport roared across the Atlantic, slicing through cloud banks with no tail signature. On board, Lena sat strapped in, hunched over a laptop locked to a single offline system, a digital environment she had built herself. No one else was allowed near it. Across from her sat a cyber intel officer named Reyes, sharp, quiet, but watching her closely. You don't look like the legend they briefed us about, he said finally. Lena didn't look up. I'm not a legend. I'm what's left after the legends are dead. Reyes didn't respond. They were headed toward the Andes Mountains in northern Argentina, to an abandoned communications facility decommissioned by NATO 15 years earlier. Or so the records claimed, but Lena's trace had confirmed it wasn't abandoned at all. The signal that bounced the black sandworm across international satellites had been originating from there, cloaked behind recycled diplomatic traffic. Whoever was inside had root-level access to both U.S. and Allied networks, and they were rewriting digital kill switches faster than the Pentagon could detect them. Reyes leaned forward. We extract whoever's in there? Lena shook her head. We don't extract. We disable, and if necessary, delete. As the plane descended over a fog-drenched valley, satellite coverage was intentionally severed. Only the three-person team on board, Lena, Reyes, and a Delta Force Comm specialist, knew this mission existed. On the ground, they moved fast. No uniforms, no insignia. The air was thin, cold. The wind howled like a warning through the canyons. The facility stood like a metal ghost half buried in the rocks, antennas twisted from age. But inside, it was alive. Power surged through cables. Cooling fans hummed. And when they entered the server room, Lena stopped cold. Black Sand Core 01 was online. It wasn't a replica. It wasn't rebuilt. It was the core. The original system. She had trained on years ago, thought to be destroyed after the Kabul betrayal. Ray stared. That's impossible. Lena moved quickly. Her tattooed arm hovered over the biometric scanner. The system beeped. Recognized her. Welcomed her. Kill code 7. Access granted. She was in. But that's when it happened. The screen shifted. A live feed flickered to life. And there he was, sitting in some dark room, hooded in shadow. Only his voice broke the silence. Hello, 7. Her pulse slowed. It had been nearly a decade, but she knew that voice. Commanding, cold, charismatic. The voice of the man who had once saved her life and later tried to erase it. You're still alive, she said evenly. So are you, he replied. Which means we both failed, didn't we? He smiled faintly. Why? She asked. You know why. The world is controlled by ghosts, data, power hidden behind firewalls and committees. They use us, then delete us. He leaned forward, unjust, giving the system a reset. You killed your team. No, he said, I freed them. Lena's knuckles whitened. Reyes raised his weapon, but Lena held up a hand. We're shutting it all down, she said. Every node, every echo. This ends tonight. The man chuckled. You think I'd use the real core? He snapped his fingers, digitally dot behind Lena. One of the racks sparked, then another. A countdown appeared on her screen. Self-destruct. Sequence. 3 o'clock. She spun around. He's wiping the system. Reyes shouted. No, Lena corrected. He's erasing the evidence. She dove into the terminal, furiously typing. The worm had one weakness. It couldn't replicate on isolated power. She rerouted the mainframe to an offline drive. She carried her backup kill code vault. 2 minutes. Fans roared. Lights flickered. She extracted what she could. Location logs, signature pings, routing traces. Then she shut everything down. Just before detonation, they escaped, diving into the freezing dirt as the facility erupted behind them. A pillar of smoke rose into the Argentine sky. Reyes coughed. Did you get him? No, Lena said. But now. He knows I'm close. Asterisk, the intel Lena pulled from the burning relay hub in Argentina was fragmented, but enough. After hours of decryption, the fragments aligned into something chilling. A direct uplink had been made days earlier from a secure compound outside Buenos Aires, registered under a false name tied to a dead diplomat. The signature left in that handshake was undeniable. It was him. Call. Signed 0-1. The man who built Blackson, the man who left them to die. Back at the secure outpost. General Ellison stared at the screen, jaw locked. You're absolutely sure? I'd never forget his digital footprint, Lena said. He trained us to leave none. Except his ego couldn't resist. He wanted me to find him. Reyes stood nearby, arms folded. So what's the plan? Lena didn't hesitate. We bait him. They set the trap in motion that same night. Lena crafted a false trace, a breadcrumb trail of classified files allegedly salvaged from Blacksand servers. She encrypted them with old authentication keys only former operatives would recognize. Inside the files? Nothing but digital noise and location trackers, disguised as secure payloads. She released the bait into the dark web using an abandoned Chinese node once used by foreign arms traders. And then they waited. 4 hours later, he bit. A remote connection pinged back. Someone accessed the files through a Ukrainian proxy, then jumped to a server in Syria, then bounced again to Lisbon, and finally to a back channel in Bariloche. Argentina, a remote mountain town. The triangulation worked. They had him. Ellison greenlit the mission, but under one condition. Lena wouldn't go in alone. Interpol, tipped off through backdoor U.S. channels, stormed the compound at dawn. Tactical. Teams moved like ghosts. No gunfire. No alarms. Inside the compound, they found military-grade computers, encryption rigs, and a familiar smell of burned circuitry. But the target wasn't there. Instead, they found something far more damning. A live server still connected to a global network. And on it, a full clone of the Blacksand archive. Files, faces, voice logs, surveillance tapes. And then a private video message addressed to Lena. Reyes played it aloud. The screen lit up with the face of 01, calm as ever, dressed in civilian clothes in an undisclosed location. Lena, or should I say, 7. You're better than I expected. That's why I saved you. She tensed. The others stared. You think I betrayed the team, that I left them to die. But the truth is, they were already dead the moment they said yes to Washington. You, though, you are always more. You still believe in missions, in generals, in systems. But those systems never believed in us. I didn't kill them. I freed them. You just weren't ready yet. He smiled faintly. But you are now. So come find me, 7. Let's finish this. The screen went black. Lena's hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but fury. She remembered the rain in Kabul, the explosion that separated her from the team, the screams, the silence, the drone hovering overhead, one they never deployed. She remembered crawling out of the wreckage, blood in her mouth, ribs cracked, still, clutching her encrypted sat link. She remembered the silence when she called for Extraction. No one came, because no one was supposed to. Ellison approached her. He's daring you to chase him. He always has, she replied. Then let me handle it. No, Lena said. This is between me and him. Reyes finally spoke. If you go dark again, there may not be a second rescue. Lena looked at him, voice cold and sure. I never needed one. She turned back to the terminal, uploaded a copy of Theblaxan's clone into a secure vault, and encrypted it with a private cipher only Ellison would understand. Then she looked at both men. This war isn't about systems anymore. It's about ghosts. And with that, Lena vanished into the night. Fort Meade was bathed in a pale orange morning as Lena walked across the parade grounds, alone, unannounced, and no longer hiding. She wore standard fatigues, boots dusted from travel, sleeves rolled up without hesitation. Her tattoo, once hidden, now visible for all to see. Recruits turned to stare. Instructors paused mid-command. For a moment, time froze. Lena Brooks, the woman they once laughed at, dismissed as Deadweight, had returned, and this time, everyone knew who she really was. Whispers rippled through the ranks like a current. That's her? One from Blackson. She stopped the breach. She hunted down a ghost. But Lena didn't look left or right. She moved straight ahead, her eyes locked on the building at the end of the lot. Command HQ. Inside, General Ellison was waiting. Fully uniformed, every medal he'd earned gleaming on his chest. Beside him stood the Secretary of Defense and 2 Cyber Command directors. They weren't here to debrief her. They were here to honor her. As Lena stepped into the room, Ellison gave a slow nod of respect. Not protocol. Not formality. Respect. Welcome. Back 7, he said quietly. Lena didn't smile. She simply stood at attention. The Secretary of Defense stepped forward. Your operation, both stateside and abroad, prevented what would have been the largest internal digital compromise in our history. We owe you a debt, but more importantly, we owe you recognition. He held out a small box. Inside was a silver badge, not military issue, not public. It bore no name, no seal, only a single number engraved in clean chrome. 7. Lena took it, closed the box gently, and nodded once. You've been given full operational clearance under the Directorate's Shadow Protocol, Ellison said. No more hiding. No more pretending to be less than you are. I never wanted recognition, she replied. You earned it anyway. Word spread fast. Within an hour, Fort Meade's main field was cleared. An unscheduled formation was called mandatory attendance. The cadets lined up, confused and tense. Some had heard whispers. Some still thought it was a drill. But when Lena walked across the field, escorted by Ellison himself, no one moved. No one breathed. The woman they had once called a ghost now stood at the front of the formation, facing every soldier who once dismissed her as a burden. Ellison stepped forward. You all laughed at her, he began. Mocked her. Ignored her. He paused, but she was watching, listening, learning. While you were proving yourselves in the field, she was saving this country from a silent war you didn't even know had started. Gasps echoed through the crowd. She dismantled a live threat that had already entered our defense systems. A threat we never saw coming. A threat created by one of the most dangerous digital minds this nation ever trained. Ellison turned to Lena. She wasn't Deadweight. She was our last line. He turned back. From this day forward, you will address her by her proper title. Kill Code 7. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, a young cadet stepped forward. The same one who had once called her slow. The one who led the jokes behind her back. He raised his hand in a sharp salute. The others followed. One by one, an entire field of soldiers raised their hands. Lena didn't blink. She didn't smile. She simply returned the salute. Later that evening, she walked alone through the barracks. No one spoke. No one dared. But they watched her with a new weight in their eyes. Not fear, but awe. She reached her old room, still marked with her name, and sat on the bed she once shared with doubt. And for the first time in years, she let herself breathe. The war wasn't over, but now she had a name again. 1 week after the ceremony at Fort Meade, Lena Brooks received a message. No email. No call. Just a flash drive, hand-delivered in a plain envelope, left under her pillow in the barracks. No one saw who delivered it. No cameras captured the drop. She plugged it into an offline terminal. A single file. No encryption. No signature. Just a blinking message on screen. Buenos Aires was a decoy. You're almost there. A 1. She stared at it, jaw tight. Then she typed a reply. I'm not chasing you. I'm ending you. She wiped the terminal, destroyed the drive, and walked straight to General Ellison's office, requesting immediate redeployment, she said. Ellison looked up from his desk, already knowing what she was going to ask. You traced him? Lena nodded. He left a trace on purpose. I analyzed the signal pattern. He's in Berlin. Deep net relay using military cloud shelters. He's hunting final access to Europe's launch protocols. Ellison leaned back. If you go, you're off the record again. Full black. No contact. No backup. I know. He paused. He's trying to get you alone. I want him alone, she replied. By midnight, she was in the air, solo. No insignia, no record. Only one encrypted kill code drive strapped under her jacket. In her eyes, there was no hesitation. Just a promise. Berlin was dark and wet when she arrived. Rain fell in sheets. She slipped through the city like a ghost, blending in, tracking digital noise the way others might follow footsteps. The final clue came in a discarded packet of routine software updates tied to a minor telecom provider. Harmless to most. But Lena spotted a signature buried 17 layers deep. Blacks and root. He was hiding in plain sight. She followed the digital trail to a cold, underground facility, a Cold War-era data bunker, once used to store NATO communications. It was now repurposed as a freelance data sanctuary, a space where information was traded like weapons. And at the center of it all, waiting for her, was 0-1. He stood behind a glass wall, watching her approach through layers of security. And screens. You came, he said, calm as ever. No more riddles, Lena replied. Just answers. He stepped into the room unarmed, hands at his sides. I never meant to kill you. I meant to free you. You were always the one who saw the flaws in the system. You murdered our team. No, he said softly. I showed them the truth. They chose to stay blind. Lena stepped forward, close enough to see the age on his face. He wasn't the monster she remembered, but the darkness in his eyes was deeper now, cold, detached. You don't have to keep playing by their rules, he whispered. You still have time. Walk away from this. Lena slowly pulled out the encrypted drive. She inserted it into the terminal beside them. The screen flared to life, code dancing faster than the eye could follow. What's that? He asked, squinting. The real end, she replied. Kill code 7 initiated. He lunged for the terminal, but she'd already air-gapped the system. It was too late. The command spread like wildfire through the relay points he'd been using, neutralizing each one with surgical precision. The system he'd built, the empire of data he'd hidden behind, collapsed in real time. His eyes went wide, not in fear, but betrayal. You were never meant to. I was always meant to, she said. He tried to speak again, but before he could, A second pulse shut down the building's entire power grid. Darkness. Silence. She left him there, in the ruins of his perfect system. Back at Fort Meade, days later, Lena returned the kill code drive to Ellison. "It's done," she said. Ellison looked at her for a long time. "You finished the mission they buried a decade ago." "No," she replied. "I just wrote the ending." He nodded. "And what now?" She looked out the window. Recruits marched. Below, hundreds of them. Training, learning, trusting in systems. They couldn't see. Lena walked out of the room and down the hall. Sleeves rolled up, tattoo visible. Some saluted. Some just stared. But all of them knew one thing now. She wasn't. Deadweight. She was Kill Code 7, the ghost who came back to protect the future, and she never looked back.